still Liya, who still lives in the same place. And so I've now baked my 3 cakes. As you can see, I don't know if you can see this one, so we'll like put them on the stove. And so now I'm going to make my frosting, level my cakes, and after I have leveled my cakes, I'm going to decorate and frost my cakes. So I'm gonna make my frosting first. So I already separated out my egg whites because that normally takes a long time. So this is 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons, which is basically a 1/2 cup plus an 1/8, so 5/8 of a cup of egg whites. So I'm gonna just put that in our bowl, and I'm gonna go put this over here. And then we're going to need 1 1/4 cups of sugar. Oh, I need the 1/4 cup. Just dry this one out. So basically what we are doing right now is we are making a meringue because I am making Swiss meringue buttercream. I like Swiss meringue buttercream because it is a lot silkier. The taste of it isn't actually my favorite, but the texture is really nice, so I like using it just for that. And sometimes it can be an okay taste. It's just like, sometimes it just tastes kind of eggy, which is a little weird. So we're gonna measure out 1 1/4 cups of sugar. And so this is something I do a lot when I need to like open a new bag of sugar or something. So basically I open the new bag and I pour like that little bit of sugar that's in the old bag. I just pour it straight into the new bag to not waste any sugar. We'll throw that away in a second. So then, whoop, 1/4 cup. Whoop, sugar on the floor. Plus 1 cup. So basically we are going to go put this over on the stove to cook the egg whites so that you're not eating raw egg whites and it cooks out any bad stuff that might be in them. So I'm just gonna whisk them together quickly. Oh, it's thick. And then let me just grab a double boiler saucepan situation. Reuse this one. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to put a few inches of water in here. It's enough so that like there's like a significant amount of water in here, but it's not going to touch the bottom of the bowl. We're gonna take this cake, put it here, put this on the back burner. It's kind of wonky shaped. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be heating up this egg sugar mixture until it's hot to the touch. Or I could use a candy thermometer, but I left my candy thermometer at my mom's house. So, and basically when it's hot to the touch is also a good measurement of if it is hot enough to be safe to eat. So I'm gonna whisk this every few minutes to make sure everything is still even. So, in the meantime, I'm going to level my cakes. So let's just go with the first one. So this is my turntable, bought it at Michael's, my best friend. He's really great. So, serrated knife. So basically, I always level my cakes because it makes stacking them a lot easier, and then frosting them because they'll all be straight and you won't have to fill in this little uneven part. So basically, how I level my cakes is I go down on my knees, try to level it with the cake, and I try to find just like the lowest point of the cake, and then I kind of mark that all around, trying to keep a very flat knife. And then I just cut. And when I cut, I learned how to do this from my aunt. I work really hard to keep that flat knife and to make sure that it is completely cut through. And then once I'm done, I can just put the top on a separate plate. And I go back down and see if it looks flat, which does not. I'll come back to that, but time to come over here and give our friend a whisk. Also, I'm going to get myself a glass of water because you gotta hydrate. Okay, so then I go back down, and this one actually looks decently flat. So I'm just gonna use it and then go over it one more time, make sure to get some of those crumbs up, and then, yeah, it's flat enough. So we're just gonna put him down. Also, the parchment is still on the bottom of all of these. And I always like to try a little bit of my cake to make sure to just like test it. It's really good. Okay. So I've been making the Swiss meringue buttercream for a long time. So I know that it takes a while to heat up and get to the right temperature. Oh my god. And I always keep the cake scraps because I have a brother and dad who really like to eat them. So they are always a hit in my family. A good one. So you gotta keep your flat knife. Make sure to really just be even with your cutting, which should give you a nice, decently flat top. This is not that even. So you can always just clean up the parts that you need to clean up. And we're just gonna do a little more over here. Okay, so then we're gonna take this cake and put them there. Ooh, the side's falling off. That's not good. And we'll take our last one. And so basically, once the cakes were in the oven, I ended up baking them for a little less because I check my cakes about every 5 minutes once I think they might be done. And I always look in first, and then I use my handy dandy just cake tester, because I think one of the most important things is having a baked cake, which is basically what a cake is. And so then I took them out, and I use springform pans, which I got for Christmas because they're really nice. So then I pop off the edge, I flip them over, and take off the bottom part, and I flip them onto my cooling rack over here to cool. So that's what I've been doing. I did a major cleanup, washed up all the coffee and milk that I had spilled. Gotta hydrate. It's important. Gonna whisk again. Hot. Nope. Yeah, so this is usually what takes the longest part of, honestly, most of the cake process. Okay. So. This was a good one. Okay, so then we have our 3 layers all done there, and then I'm just gonna brush this off over the sink, and I'm also going to brush these into my hand. And then while the eggs are heating up, I'm also going to just prepare a little more for the frosting. So for this recipe, I use 4 sticks of butter, which equals 2 cups if you have a different size butter, which I'm not sure if you do, but if you do, I got you 2 cups. So basically, I just chop my butter into little pieces. Not really little pieces, because it just makes it a lot easier to add when you're mixing it into the meringue. So basically, I'd say I chop each one into maybe 4ths. They don't have to be perfect or even or anything. They just have to be smaller than a huge stick of butter. Instead of just adding that, you can add the little pieces. And it's really important that this butter is softened, or else your buttercream's consistency will not be correct, because it's going to be way too cold. So then it might start to separate. And I have had many instances in which I have messed up this buttercream, but saved it. Somehow, there's one time where a little bit of butter got into the meringue before I started whipping it. So the meringue didn't actually form. But I added a heck ton of butter. And I made it work. We got it. That was kind of a stressful moment. So then our butter will be prepped, and then I'm gonna work on my raspberry puree. So I'm gonna be making this a raspberry frosting, and then the chocolate drips. So the reason I'm making it raspberry is I wanted to make it strawberry, but the coronavirus has been hitting Colorado, and that's why I've been able to bake so much. It's because I'm in quarantine. Not quarantine, it's just they closed my school, and I'm not supposed to hang out with any of my friends or anything. So, and all the stores were sold out of strawberries. Actually, all produce. So we have lots of raspberries, though. So it's raspberry time. So to make my raspberry puree, really what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bowl. I'm going to add my raspberries, just a little bit of sugar and a little bit of salt. And then I'm just going to mash them up. Gotta make sure they're all good. And then I'm going to go rinse them off, because you gotta rinse your fruit. Oh, that's not a good one. One more. Yeah. We have to compost. I think that composting and being eco-friendly is really important. So I try to minimize my food waste as much as possible. And so, yeah, those are just some things I value. And so, let's see. So in the next part of this video, you're going to see me doing some of my hobbies. And those hobbies are rock climbing, frisbee, and viola. I've been playing the viola since I was in 5th grade. And I really like playing the viola because, one, I have a lot of other friends in orchestra, so we all like talk and hang out and do our music stuff. And then also, it's a really cool way, and there's some songs that I really like. And it's just another thing for me to focus on and have like something to do every night. So that's fun. And then I got into ultimate frisbee just earlier this, I think it was 2 years ago. And I have, the people that play ultimate frisbee are a lot different from like my main friend group, I guess. So it's really nice to hang out with them. And it's a sport that I can always improve on, which I think is my favorite part about it, because there's a lot of room to get better. And also it's exercise, which I really just like doing because exercise is nice. Now I'm just gonna mash this up, make a nice little puree type thing. If you wanted, you could cook this down with a little bit of water too, and you could make like more of a sauce, I guess. But for my purposes, I kind of just want a sweet raspberry. Sometimes I've added just whole raspberries, and that also works. It's just, this also gives me something to do right now instead of just dancing around. Though after this, I might just put on some music, dance around, sing. Sorry if I'm like really talkative. I've been like kind of blabbering on this whole time. I just feel like I should like fill the empty space, you know? You gotta like do stuff. That's good. Ah. Oh, it's almost there. Okay. Do I know any dance routines? I also do musical theater, but our dances this year aren't that fun. Let's see. We're doing Legally Blonde, and I'm one of the Harvard students. Although one of my friends is Paulette. She's one of the leads. Yeah. Pretty fun. Oh yes, and so for the decoration of this cake, I'm going to do smooth sides, and then I'm going to do a chocolate drip with my chocolate glaze recipe. And then I'm going to just put fresh raspberries on top with a little bit. I made raspberry American buttercream yesterday for my macarons. As you can see here, it's kind of just sitting. So we might use this later. Not really sure yet, but yeah. Oh, it is very close. Here. Since I really don't have anything to do right now, I'll show you some of the macarons. Some definitely turned out better than others. This is my very first time making macarons. The tips are kind of pointy right now, but I'm really happy that I got the normal feet. And I just have to figure out how to get the top and bottom flat, and I just filled them with a raspberry buttercream. I'm pretty proud of them. This is my second batch. I made 2 batches because I've had a lot of time off and not much to do. So I made macarons. They're really fun. I like them because they're gluten-free. A lot of my gluten-free friends who normally can't eat what I make, they could have eaten them. I'm gonna make them when I go back to school so they can all enjoy them. Oh, it's hot. Okay. So now that it is done, I'm going to move some stuff over. I need this little, let me just put it over here. So basically, I'm just going to move everything over a little bit, and I'm going to whip the whites until 1, they have medium stiff peaks, and 2, until there's no heat escaping out the sides of the bowl, to make sure that the butter doesn't just melt. Is it? weird color. Okay, plug in our mixer. Okay, I'm gonna be mixing for a while. I hope you can see me. And I'm not super sure if I'm gonna be able to talk, so yeah. I've made lots of meringues in the past few days. That is not a medium stiff peak. Alright, smart. Yeah. Kind of just singing some of my favorite songs, dancing. Is what I do. Medium stiff? No. Okay, so it has maybe more, definitely more medium than stiff peak, and there's still heat escaping, so I think I might do a little more. just gonna wipe it off. Let me grab a paper towel. Looking pretty stiff. Okay, yes, I'm feeling confident about this. It's not too warm on the sides. So I'm going to start slowly adding my butter in like maybe a chunk at a time, 1 or 2 chunks at a time. Maybe let's start with 2 and see how it goes. This butter has been sitting out, which is very important. So whenever I need to bake with softened butter, I always just put it out in the morning because I like to bake in the night and then the afternoon because I'm not really a morning person. There goes the butter. Okay, so right now it looks kind of soupy. But we're just gonna keep mixing and we're gonna get it. Really good. Oh, what I realized, I learned this a long time ago, but I really don't like the smell of eggs. Cooked eggs. Uncooked eggs really have no smell, so I'm fine with those, but oh my goodness, cooked eggs. I'm gonna have a little more snack, and I'm gonna go wash my hands. You know what? It's okay. Can I have some water on my shirt? Okay. A little more butter. As you can see, it's getting very silky and very smooth. Sorry. Sorry if I'm like in the corner of the frame. Just gonna make sure you can see me, but that I can still use the outlet. And I'm really hoping that you can see me. And it's also starting to hold its shape a lot more, as you can tell. So we're almost there. Okay, so now that it is done, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of vanilla, and then I'm just gonna mix it until it's really smooth, and then I'm going to add my raspberry puree. Oh. Okay, so now I'm going to slowly mix in my raspberries. It's just raspberry and sugar. So there are these cakes, mostly on Instagram that I see, where they all kind of look the same, where they're just like colorful drip cakes with a bunch of frosting on top. 1, sometimes I think that's a little too much frosting. And 2, I think that adding fresh raspberries, 1, gives it a really nice flavor, and 2, like being able to see the raspberry. Some may think it looks a little rustic, but I think it looks really cool. So here's our finished product, and then I always test it to make sure that it's not too sweet or it's not sweet enough. Oh, it's really good. I don't like my frostings too sweet because I think that it just takes away from the cake and stuff, so I generally go for less sweet frostings. No, it's real good. Very silky. Okay, we're just gonna unplug this. Okay. So now about halfway through, I'm gonna start my chocolate glaze to go on top. Let me just go get a cake board. So basically the first thing that I always do, so I actually flip them upside down, take off parchment, fold it in half, put it aside. Okay, and I normally flip you back over. So I'm just going to use my offset spatula, put just a little bit down as kind of a glue, spread it out a little. Basically that's just what my cake is going to sit on. That will help make sure that it doesn't move all around the board. Okay, now I'm going to start filling it. I like to use an offset spatula if I have one, but all the times I don't have one, so when I don't have one, I just use a knife or a spatula. I can really make do with whatever. I frosted one of my whole wedding cakes with just a knife. Okay, and then so now I'm seeing that's a little crummy, so I'm just going to use a brush and just brush away some of the crumbs to make sure that it is not overly crummy, which will make it really hard to get a nice even frost job on. So we're just gonna use this, put a little more on, kind of use it as like a knife, almost. Yeah, because it's a palette knife. Haha, Leah, you're really funny. I know. And then just put it down and spin. So I don't like too much frosting in my filling layers because I think that it just takes away from the flavor of the cake, which is what the main star is. So we're just gonna, but you gotta make sure that all the parts are covered. Also in here, it's okay if you have a few little crumbs of the cake here and there, because one, you can't see it, and two, it's just, I don't really mind because you're getting a bite of cake with your frosting anyways. Unless you're kind of weird and you like eat the frosting out of the cake and then you eat the cake, which would just be weird. Don't know anyone who does that. So yeah, so we're just gonna make sure that we have a nice even filling all around before moving on. Gotta make sure that it is very well spread out, reaches the edge. And so basically, flat knife, rotate, rotate, rotate. As long as the surface that you are putting your next cake on is flat, it will work well. Put a little more in the middle. Gotta make sure you don't run out of frosting. I see all these kids with all these, it's like extra frosting, and I don't understand how they do it. Okay. Also here I'm really taking my time to try to get a nice even one, but if I was like timed, probably wouldn't go for as perfect, because perfect isn't everything. And I probably said this before, but I think that taste is the most important part of a cake above everything else. Taste is the most important part of anything ever, because why would you want to eat something that looks good but doesn't taste good? Like, just think about that. And then, so basically, just going to put the cake down. Gotta agree which side is going to be the back. See, one of my main things is that you always have a back of a cake. And like on this side, a little bit is falling off the side. So you just use your frosting as a glue. Do some arts and crafts type stuff. And then you're all good as new. Oh, I just threw that into the cake. Oh. Okay, paper towel. Oh, that's two. Okay, so now we're gonna fill this layer. And then I always forget to brush it first, and then I realize I really should brush it because a lot of crumbs are created and it's really annoying. And also, I always just brush up all these crumbs at the end and probably just compost them because they aren't that good for eating anyways. And then another thing that I'm kind of stickler about is always cleaning off your knife, because I made a cake with my aunt once, and she wouldn't yell at me, but she would tell me every time, clean knife, clean knife. Also flat knife. Flat knife was another thing that I have learned to appreciate throughout that was the cake. That was one of the cakes that took me 3 days. She kind of just stood there and gave me tips while I did the whole thing, which I'm very thankful for. So I have been working on this for a long time, getting my technique down to get that nice, even, flat top. Get really pretty cakes, but still, number one thing, cake that tastes good. Because no one wants to eat a cake that doesn't taste good. Like, you can have the most pretty cake ever, but no one wants it if it doesn't taste good. I've said that like 5 times, but it's one of my life mottos. It's more of a don't judge something on its appearance thing. Which also, I gotta say, I know that there's the saying, don't judge a book by its cover, but really, the cover of a book is like a first impression. So I pick up books based on their cover, and then I read the like little blurb that's like, this is what's it about, and then I either put it back or decide to read it. But I think the cover of a book is actually pretty important to, if it gets chosen by a reader to be read. I can have a little more here. Yeah. So I think being on the show would be really cool. And I think I also use more out there flavors. Like, I've been watching the show a lot. I've been seeing a lot of people using lemon, which, yes, I know some of the judges like lemon, but I feel like I feel like creativity is a lot of it, and I don't want to make just a vanilla cake with a vanilla buttercream and make it pretty. Like, I think if you gotta take some risks and kind of go for it, because one, there's a lot of stuff in that kitchen, so you'll have like I don't really have that like orange extract to use, but I think it's just really cool to have all those resources. So I think if I was there, I try to experiment a lot with flavors, choose really out there flavors to do, because that would make my work stand out a lot. So, last cake, and then the last cake, you always flip it upside down so that you have the smoothest surface possible on top. Cake, you gotta look on top to make sure that's centered. Then you can take off your, oh, that's beautiful, pretty top. And then we're just gonna take this. Oh, I remembered this time. Brush it off. Make sure that there's no huge crumbs. And nice big dollop. So sometimes I do a little crumb coat, just do like that base coat, especially if I'm doing another color over it and I was filling it with something different than what I'm frosting it with. But in this case, since I'm just doing the same thing, I probably won't. But I do always go pretty slowly when doing the sides, because I gotta make sure that they're nice and even. And I've been experimenting a lot with different things. I've done some piping work recently, like on top of my cakes, and that sometimes looks really cool. Oh, sometimes it does not look cool. Sorry, I keep leaving the frame, but that's good. So we're just gonna pick this up, put it there, kind of just. And let's see, what else? What do I really like to bake? I really like making cakes and cookies. Especially, I like sugar cookies. Sugar cookies, if they have like a good topping on them, are good. I like making cupcakes. I gotta say, I don't see what cream puffs are all about. Like, I like choux pastry, but I don't think it's something like super special. I mean, I can make it. I've never made eclairs. Wait, actually, no, I should probably do that at one point. They're on my list. I made macarons. Those are really fun. And I went to Paris over spring break, and I had some really good macarons there. I take French at school, so learned a lot of French things. I made a few crepes. Crepes are pretty cool. They're very delicious to eat, too. Oh. When you're getting there with the frosting. Oh. See, that's one thing with my hair. Sometimes it gets in whatever I'm making. Or whatever I'm making gets on my hair. It can be really annoying, but also I don't like having my hair tied back because it's just like, I look kind of weird like that, in my opinion. So, I normally do some sort of top knot situation, hence this is going on. So, yeah, because having my hair on my face is really important when I'm baking, especially decorating, because if you can't see, you can't really do stuff too well. I can put my hair up when I'm doing sports or climbing or playing frisbee, because then it definitely gets in the way. Like when I'm running, oh my goodness. Okay. So there are still a few more things that I have to do. I have to make the chocolate, which I should probably get started on now because it's gotta cool. So basically, for the chocolate glaze, I'm going to be using 4 ounces of this semi-sweet chocolate. I like using bar chocolate to make glazes and ganaches because it turns out better. Let me just rip it open. Packaging can sometimes be my enemy. And so basically we're just gonna open it up and then grab a small saucepan. It does not need to be that big because we are not making too much. So basically I just grab all my chocolate and I kind of break it up. I take each piece and then I could chop it if I wanted, but one makes more dirty dishes, which I have to wash. So I just break it into smaller pieces with my hand to make sure that's good. And so 4 ounces of chocolate. I believe this is 4 ounces. Just this whole package. Yeah. It's sometimes really nice if you just get something that's already the exact amount that you need. And in my opinion, just like the baking, like barred chocolate is a lot higher quality than the chips. Although I do love myself a good chocolate chip cookie. That has to be a good one. Oh, sometimes I just use like the Nestle Toll House recipe for chocolate chip cookies. Oh, they're so good. So I'm gonna add that, and I'm gonna add a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Which, this is something that kind of confuses me, because whenever, it's like heavy cream, but it's always called heavy whipping cream. And when I was really little, I wondered if there was a difference between whipping cream and just heavy cream. And I'm not super sure today. I don't think there's a difference. So weird packaging here. It's kind of a mess, but that's okay. So just gonna add a 1/2 cup of this in. Oh yeah, it's the perfect size. Thank you, Dad. Got good heavy cream. Then we're going to add 1/4 cup of light corn syrup to this. I don't use light corn syrup that much because, well, it's so deadly sweet. But I found that it's good in this recipe. So basically we are just going to, oh, one thing that I've really wanted to try doing is making like those sugar nests, which I haven't done yet, where it's like strands of sugar. Those always look really cool. Okay, now that that's cool, we're just gonna put it over medium-low heat on the stove and wait until the cream starts to steam, like that run, and the chocolate just starts to kind of melt a little. Which it looks like it might already be doing for some reason. Oh no, that's just it mixing. But I'm going to continue frosting the cake. And so the other thing is I always frost my cakes on a cake board, which makes sense. And then to just present my cake, I always just wipe off the cake board with a little paper towel if I got frosting on it. Well, frosting the cake, which I think I have never not gotten frosting on it because it's kind of impossible not to get frosting on it, especially when you're doing the bottom. And I also just realized that you can't really see what I'm doing because the camera is looking at the front of the cake while I'm here frosting the back of the cake, which is really just great. So yeah, I actually think I made like a really good amount of frosting for this though. Sometimes I gotta like conserve my frosting. It's kind of scary because I'm always like, oh, am I gonna have enough? No, I'm not gonna have enough. Or I always have like way too much and I don't know what to do with it, so then I just bake like a mini cake, or sometimes I make cupcakes with like extra cake batter. Those are always really good. Yeah, I bring a lot of my baked goods into school and I share them with my friends, but I can't really do that right now because again, I'm not in school. So I'm just baking away, and I think I might bring some of this up to my mom's house and share it with them. It's pretty good though. It's nice to be home sometimes. I get a lot more sleep now because I don't have to wake up in the mornings to go to school because my school starts at 8 a.m. Honestly, it's not that early, but it's pretty early. I'd rather have like a 9 to 4 instead of 8 to 3 because I do after school activities, so I get out of school at 4 anyways a lot. Actually it's 4:15, but it's close enough. Let's see, yeah. There's a dog outside. Or there's an animal. Maybe it's a chicken. It's like, kind of sounds like a little bit of squawking. So I'm gonna go check on our chocolate syrup. That's what I'm gonna be calling it now. Oh, it's a little high. Turn it back down. Oh yeah, I think I might take this off the heat in a second because our chocolate is melting. And then I'm just gonna add my vanilla and my salt. Yes, I'm going to take this off the heat. Just bring it forward one. And then I'm going to keep stirring it. Oh, it smells really good. And then I'm going to add just a pinch of salt and a teaspoon of vanilla. Is my teaspoon out? No, it is not. So just a teaspoon of vanilla. And then honestly, I'm just gonna use a tiny little shake of salt. Just give it that little extra bit of contrast to all that sweetness. I have this very interesting idea of topping my cake with pretzels because it would be like the sweet, the salty and the sweet, which I think I still might do one time. I don't think the pretzels go too well with the raspberry and chocolate. I don't have pretzels, but yeah, that was an idea. Oh, I'm just gonna let this cool and thicken right there. While I finish frosting this cake. And then, yeah, so I have my leftover frosting from the macarons, which I might use in a bit. Really have just been blabbering on this whole time, but that's okay because it's a show. Well, it's not a show, it's a video starring Liya. Chase. Yeah, so our cake is looking almost done. It's looking very covered. Not scandalous at all. Ooh. See, whenever I'm like going to do to just like cover one part, and I always end up uncovering another part. So I got okay. Oh jeez. Just gonna take a little more. It smells very good, very fruity. I like using fruit flavors because one, they give a nice natural color most of the time. Because I'm not like a huge fan of using food coloring. Because I try to avoid all that artificial stuff when I can. If I need to, I will, but it's just, in my opinion, it's best to not, especially because I know people who are allergic to food coloring, so, and like, it would be like a perfectly fine dish that they can eat, except someone used food coloring. So I like to try to keep it very simple. And then we're just gonna smooth a little bit. Smooth. Scrape. Smooth the top. Well, honestly, you're not really gonna see this top of it because it's because of the chocolate. It's a little bit exposed there though. And then we're just gonna make sure that this is as smooth as I can get it right now. Oh, just scraped off a little bit of it. I'm so sorry, cake. Okay, so we are just going to swipe along these things. I guess, no, swipe. Just make sure that there's a smooth surface for our chocolate glaze to go over. That's why I've been calling it a glaze. Palette knife. I like using the word palette knife more than spatula. It sounds fancier, and I actually use it more like a knife. Could probably cut something with this. Okay, it's looking pretty smooth. Okay, we have a little bit extra frosting. Oh, I have an idea when I'm done with this. I'm gonna prep a frosting bag. Oh yeah, I have a tip that I wanted to use. I do not have the largest selection of tips, but I have some tips. Piping tips in it. That wasn't clear, sorry. So, always just cut off the tip. This is always very difficult for me for some reason, just like getting that size right of like what I should cut off. Cause like, what if it's a really big tip? How much do I cut off? Or if it's really small? Okay. Oh my goodness, it is 7:20. in like over an hour. Guys, this video must be very large. Ugh. And I always do the trick where you take your glass, turn it upside down so that it doesn't get stuck, and then you just open this up and you pull the edges over the cup, and that makes it easier to fill your piping bag, because I am not that great at filling piping bags. One of those things that I got to improve on, because honestly I should do it more, because I don't pipe a lot of things normally. Try. I think I should be getting better at. This is like sticking to nice little syrup. Not really sure. I haven't used this before. It's a new thing I'm trying out. I guess we're just gonna slowly add it to the center. There's this commitment right here. It's just what commitment looks like. See, if you add to the center, then it's okay if it like spreads out a little, because you can just like wipe it off. So now we're just gonna clean our palette knife, because I don't especially feel like washing it right now. Don't really have time for that. So just gonna wipe it down, wipe it down, wipe it down. New song. More.